Some of the shorter teachings of Rabbi Nachman again this evening, and some of them have a real, although they're short, they're really to the point and very meaningful. Okay, we've talked in the past that there's a Kabbalistic ceremony called Tikkun Chatzot, the repair of midnight. What's that?
The repair of
midnight. Midnight. What do people do who do that? And I know some people never miss a midnight. They get up at midnight, and midnight being actually the middle of the night. Right now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning, so good daylight saving time. And when I say get up, they sleep first. The idea is breaking the power of sleep. In life, we're largely asleep, and get up. And the Tikkun Chatzot consists of two parts. The first part is called the Tikkun of Rachel, Rachel's Tikkun. Now, Jacob had two wives, Rachel and Leah. Kabbalistically, Rachel represents the 10th of the Sfirot, the lowest one, the mother, as it were, of the lower Sfirot of the world. Leah represents a far higher level, also the feminine, but the feminine not of the recreator of life, but Bina. Bina, as we talked about, is understanding and freedom. How is understanding freedom? If you don't understand, you're afraid and you follow orders. When you understand, you really understand that what you're being told by a politician or by even a friend may not be the truth, but is maybe has a grain of truth in it. If you listen carefully, you can know what they're really saying. How are you? Fine. That says they're not really fine. Okay. Fine. That says something is wrong. So Bina is insight beyond what's said to really penetrate. And in Kabbalah, Bina is always called Olam HaCherut, the world of freedom. That when we understand, we're free. We don't have to worry. When the Nazis took over in Eastern Europe, how were they able to control so many millions of Jews? Primarily because they kept them too busy, too much on the move to be able to think. We're moving you to another town. Actually moving you to a work camp. Actually, we're doing this, we're doing that. And the people believed falsely that they're needed in the Nazi war machine. And they're not going to be hurt. And they moved them around too quickly, told them different things to confuse them. And they would not that way rebel. Rebellion was rare. Only a few cases of rebellion. Had the Jews known, guys, we're coming here, we're going to round you up, we're going to kill you, the Jews could have easily fought off the Nazis. There were many more Jews than the Nazis. And although they weren't armed, they could have Molotov cocktails and whatnot, they could have been saved. In our lives, very often we're kept too confused to think about where we are. And that's one of the beauties of having Shabbat, where we don't work. By force we don't work. We're not allowed to work. You want to work, you can't work. It's not an option. And you are alone with your family, with your God, and with yourself. And you can start to take stock of where your life is going. I got a phone call today from someone who was having spiritual issues. And I said, why don't you go to classes, lectures that might inspire you? And go to people who you can talk to about these things? He said, I'm too busy with my job. I said, you see, being tricked. Being tricked by the forces of evil. You're so busy, you can't take stock of your life. You don't bemoan the fact that you've fallen spiritually. Also, and this is another thing we'll get in a little while, the same person said to me, I'm committing grave sins. I don't know how to live myself with it, and I think I will give up religion altogether. I said, listen to what you're saying. I can't be consistently right. I think I can't be consistently right, so I'll be consistently wrong. The man was big on Judaism, but if he said, I feel like such a hypocrite. Since I'm doing certain things wrong, I might as well do everything wrong. I said, that's a trick of the evil inclination. It's a lack of being, of understanding what's really going on. Why are you doing things that are wrong? As a result of your depression, a result of your environment. Change your environment. I have my job here. Maybe it's the wrong job for you. Maybe you should make your own environment, like your little self-contained atmospheric center. Don't have all the friends of all your neighbors. Surround yourself with people who can inspire you, can uplift you rather than drag you down. Read things that will inspire you. In this world, the power of evil often keeps us so busy and so worried about things that we can't take stock and think about where we're going and where we've been and what it means. Rabbi Nachman is saying about the midnight. So in the midnight, in the Tikkun Chatzot, there are two parts. The first part is Rachel. Now, Rachel is not buried near Jacob. Leah is. Leah is buried in the same tomb with Jacob. Rachel is buried quite a few miles away. So, the two feminine aspects of the Sfirot, Bina and Malchut, one is close with God, the other is distant. There's the idea of the exile of the Shekhinah, the exile of the divine presence, of the divine feminine. We've talked about that in the past. Rabbi Nachman says, when reciting Tikkun Chatzot, don't read it about the past, read it about yourself. The first part, Tikkun Chatzot, is done sitting on the floor. Some people put ashes on their heads, some people wear sackcloth. And it's sad. It bemoans the Shekhinah in exile, the Jewish people in exile. And exile is not just geographic, it's also spiritual. It's alienation. And a person sits, Rabbi Nachman says, should be contemplating your own alienation and what it means. Things you've been cut off from that you once had. Ideals that you once had. Hopes that you once had. Can anybody here who's over 25 tell me all your dreams of your life have been fulfilled? Nobody. I just don't want to speak up. Okay. In the first part, Tikkun Chatzot, the midnight repair, it represents a Shekhinah in exile, alienation from God, the Jewish people, the divine presence. Rabbi Nachman says, Jewish people, fine. The divine presence, fine. We don't live that life, though. We live the life where I'm disappointed, I'm unhappy the way things worked out, or at least many things. I'm unhappy seeing the things around me. How many people listen to the news and say, wow, what a wonderful world this is? Every day. Okay. Okay. And so we should sit there and contemplate our own alienation. The second part is the tikkun of Leah, who's together with Jacob. Understanding, well, let's see, what do these things mean, if anything?
Where's Jacob buried?
Jacob's buried in Hebron with Leah, whereas Rachel is arguable. Okay?
Oh, it's on the...
I don't believe one in Bethlehem is authentic. Okay. I don't believe the tomb in Bethlehem is authentic. Of Rachel.
You mean the tomb that the Arabs want to make into a...
Yeah, they want to get rid of the mosque. But that's not the issue. The Bible pretty much tells us that Rachel's tomb is north of Jerusalem. Bethlehem is south of Jerusalem. Okay, let's not get into that too far. Yeah.
I'm a little bit, I want to use the word confused, because wasn't Rachel the love of his life? I mean,
yeah, and yet they're not buried together.
Right.
And Rachel had great disappointments. She had to allow her sister to marry her husband because her father was setting it up that way. She couldn't interfere. She was childless for a long time. Finally had 2 children, and died in childbirth of the second one. It's in the Bible. It's not it's not the thing. And Leah is having one kid after another. Rachel's still the favorite, but she feels alienated, exiled. In the book of Samuel, the beginning of the book of Samuel, there's a man named Elkanah. He has 2 wives. We read this in Rosh Hashanah and Haftarah, Chana and Penina. Penina has children, Chana has no children. And what does Elkanah say to her? Aren't I better to you than 7 sons? There's no answer given there. The implication is, no, you ain't. I mean, it's the reality for a woman. For a woman to be childless is very often a very, very difficult burden. Okay, so she represents a beloved who is alienated, who's living in a different place, separated, and longs to return to her husband. Okay, the second part of Chatzot is Leah. Insight, we should see from our alienation, what does that mean? Therefore what? It Kabbalistically represents the divine feminine returning to the divine masculine. That's redemption. But for us, I just went through relating to my alienation, all my disappointments, all the tragedies, all the mishaps, and those that never happened, but I was worried about them happening. It kept me from living. Now, what I learned from that, how do I return to the presence of God? So Rabbi Nachman says, all of the national tragedies and the cosmic tragedies that are talked about in Tikkun Rachel, put yourself into it, your own life. Somebody you loved who didn't return your love. Somebody who's ungrateful, who betrayed you. I think we've all been through these things. Disappointment's career. Okay. And therefore, some people say, I'll throw in the towel. Other people say, no. Let's see how I can reinvent myself. The evil inclination says, you're much too old to do that. Who says? Many people began being productive in their 60s and even 70s. Before that, they really weren't doing very much. I used to know a guy many years ago who had been, I don't know, didn't really have a direction in life. And he was in a car accident when his wife was killed. And his children didn't want to speak to him because they blamed him for it. He went off to Italy to lose himself and wound up in medical school, became a doctor, and practiced as a physician for many years. At that point, he was probably well into his 30s, and he'd been a shiftless person until that. And then became somebody who wanted to devote his life to giving life to others, giving health to others. And that happened as a result of a tragedy. That's exactly what we're talking about. That person was taking Chatzot. The first part of Chatzot was his first marriage, the disappointment, the sense of guilt, being responsible, he felt, his children rejecting him because of that. The second, therefore, what do I do? Do I go off in a cave and die? Or do I go somewhere and reinvent myself and find a new direction? So Rabbi Nachman says that's if we're practicing Chatzot, the same way, he says, we're reciting Psalms or any other prayers. In Psalms, what is David really screaming about mostly? His persecution. Who is he being persecuted by? His father-in-law, King Saul, who wants to kill him. Now, that's not unusual, father wanting to kill a son-in-law, but then his sons are trying to kill him. One of his sons rapes his wives. A whole bunch of them. It was not actually a rape, it was a public rape in order to show I'm inheriting my father. It's in the Bible. Even in the book of Samuel, second book of Samuel.
A public rape?
They put a tent on the rooftop, took in the wives, and he went in there, spent a couple of hours, came out, okay. I did all of them.
And that was okay?
Was that okay? He'd done a revolution against his father, and his advisor said, "This is what you do to show that there's no turning back." You're
Absalom.
Absalom. Okay. Okay. Anyway, and the prophet Nathan had said to David was going to happen when David had the affair with Bathsheba. Nathan the prophet says, "You defiled your neighbor's wife in secret. Someone's going to defile your wives right in the daylight for all to see." Okay, and okay. Anyway, the point is that throughout the Psalms, David is talking about his struggles, his persecution, his failures, hoping for better. So Rabbi Nachman says when we say Psalms, it's not historic. We're not trying to relieve